peux switch. Oui, c'est la clé de race, c'est vraiment. Je me souviens de la dernière fois. Elle est venue encore ?
Regarde-le du coup.
Hi everyone. We are really happy to welcome you today for the final presentation of our M2 students. So as usual, you have here the links to follow this presentation live. And you also have for the jury the link for the feedbacks and evaluation. So just as a reminder, what are these M2 projects that's going to be presented to you today? So this is a work of conception and pre-production of a video game made by teams of students representing studios. So for the one who followed all the process, it started exactly 4 months ago, and you will see today the results of this work for the 4 months work they've done. So this is the result. For the one who followed, you may see differences between the start, but that's normal. It's a part of the process. So here they're going to present it as they would present it to professionals. Just remember that we don't do a lot of marketing here, so maybe just have that in mind if you want to make the evaluation of this. They've done quite a great job, so you're going to see that. So they will present a vertical slice, so to illustrate their proposition. We have 6 studios, 6 games. They will have 40 minutes each to present their games. And we're gonna have also time to test them upstairs. First, I wanted to thank, next slide, please, thanks. Many thanks to the jury who was there till the beginning and who keeps giving feedbacks to them that are very valuable. So thank you to be there again, and thank you to be so diverse. I will remind you after for the questions that you have to present yourself and express what kind of speciality you represent. And in the jury today, we are really happy to welcome in person our godmother. So Audrey, who's there today. I don't know if we can have the light in the room. Please. Thank you. Maybe you can stand up. I will give you the mic for just 2 minutes.
I'm just very happy to be here with you today. I have to say that now that I've seen the program, the setup in person, I have even higher expectations from you guys.
Thank you. So, yeah, Audrey was there till the beginning, but on Skype. Today she's there in person, and so we are really happy to welcome you, as well as your co-partners for that. So she's there with Julie Chalmette and Farhanaz Elahi, who are the co-godmothers this year. So it was a lucky year for you guys. So thank you and welcome them again, please, all the 3 of them. Next slide. So I told you 6 teams, 6 games. So the 40 minutes will be divided into 25 minutes of presentation maximum and 15 minutes of question, approximately. And as I said, there will be playtime. So we really kept sometimes after the presentation so you can play the games because everything is playable. So, final word. Let's go. Thank you. And let's welcome the first project, Undiscovered Wounds.
As a tribe, we had one goal. Extend our knowledge, reach beyond the light. We wanted to climb higher, to go where nobody has been before. We wanted to get out of this darkness. I wanted to get out of this darkness. If only we had the guts to push harder. know you are here. What are you? Why can I see you? If we climb as one, nothing will stop me. I'll do whatever it takes to see what's up there.
You just met Yasha, the heroine of Undiscovered Wounds. She will travel through a mysterious land, a mysterious world. Let's talk about this world. It is a planet, very far from its sun, very cold. It can be divided into layers from the surface to the core. The sky is always at night and surrounds deeply iced mountains with snow everywhere. Under those mountains, a city lies, protected by a dome from the cold and the snow. It stands on the roots of a very cold and iced forest of pines. The trees are gigantic and growing vertically towards the center of the planet. Over the treetops, wide and bioluminescent flowers grow and light up the space. Their lights, it allows to discover the peak of other trees, seemingly growing the other way round. Thick vines make that part of the forest darker. If you follow the trunks of the trees, you will find massive and red branches and a dangerous flying fauna. Going deeper down, towards the center of the planet, you will find a layer of squishy and soft mushrooms in a very warm environment. Those mushrooms, they grow on trees' roots, deeply sinking in a vast ocean, so hot it can cook beings alive in a matter of minutes. If you could swim through the ocean, you would discover that the core of the planet is made of a vast sky and clouds and overlooked by a baby sun. The vines, it's where Yasha lives. She is a member of the nomadic tribe. Like all the tribe's members, Yasha is obsessed with climbing higher, always higher. There's a lot of social pressure in her tribe to reach the peak of the trees. One day, during her quest for success, Yasha falls to the mushroom level and loses an arm in tree sap. She will need time to tend her wounds and to overcome the despair of never being able to climb again. At one point, though, she will demonstrate great resilience, and she will create a new way of climbing with the only remaining arm. As her recovery will go on, she will also discover a new spiritual power within herself. Among the tall trees, she will now see another world, the spiritual world. It is as dangerous as the real world, but it brings new elements into Yasha's perception of the forest. Those elements can be inanimate and inoffensive, as they can be gigantic and dangerous. From the mushroom level, Yasha will climb back to a new tribe, the sedentary tribe, living in a big red branches. This tribe is different from the nomadic one. They have no obsession with climbing, but rather with communicating with the forest and the spirits. They preach harmony with each other, and especially with nature. Saying her new power, they want Yasha to be their new spiritual guide, but she is too obsessed with climbing to even consider it. She will keep climbing, always, to reach the nomadic tribe, in the hope of still being part of it. Thanks to her link to the spiritual world, she is now stronger than any of her kind. She will be able to go to uncharted lands, traveling the massive forest faster than anyone else before. In the end, she will reach the city. She will learn there that the city people are harvesting the spiritual energy to keep the city warm. It is why the spiritual world is getting more and more hostile the higher Yasha climbs. Her obsession to climb always more will isolate Yasha and push her into reaching the icy planet's surface. This will almost drive her crazy with loneliness. Fortunately, she met spiritual beasts on her journey. Spiritual beasts who taught her how to evolve in the spiritual world. They will feel her despair, and they will come to help her find herself again. Driving her back to the sedentary tribe, the beasts will teach Yasha one last ability. She can now travel through the sap of trees very fast. In the end, she will find her own purpose in life by merging both ways, climber and spiritual guide. She will thus be able to bring balance to herself and to her world. Now we are going to talk a bit more about the technical parts of our games. So, it's a platform and adventure game in a dark fantasy setting. The camera is in third-person view, and we have a 3D environment. We made a vertical slice to define the overall experience of our game. It takes place in the darkest part of the forest, the vines. Yasha thus already knows how to climb and how to interact with the spiritual world, because it happens a few hours after the beginning of the game. The player's objective is to find people from the nomadic tribe. Now let's discover our demo.
Est-ce qu'on peut avoir le retour, s'il vous plaît? Beginning of our journey, at the light's edge, not far from where Yasha fell at the beginning of the game. This is the vines layer, a dense and claustrophobic area. As we can see, Yasha invented her own way of climbing. She propels herself using only her arm. This translates into the player using the left joystick to catapult himself and using one button to grip the surfaces. At this point, the player is familiarized with the controls, and if he decides so, could even remap the controls to his preference. Yasha is still following the traces of the tribe. We can witness in the environment traces, tools, bridges, lamps, and totems. But the tribe's tools might be useful. Of course, they don't last long, I guess, against the wilderness of the forest. Here is a forest wound. It's a spiritual spot of energy growing on the tree barks. When Yasha uses her trance in front of the wound, she can witness new platforms, new areas against which to climb. It's a great advantage, but of course, it comes at a cost. As soon as Yasha touches the ground, she is threatened to be thrown out of this world. Every time a player sees a forest wound, he knows that the path ahead will be challenging. This forest is primal, dangerous, ancient. It's not unusual to see skeletons of beasts that roamed the forest centuries ago. Those remains still seem to be inhabited by some kind of soul or spirits. But it won't stop Yasha to try to climb it. To be able to create these organic and affordant textures, we use photogrammetry and manage to make the textures distinguishable within each other. Here is a color tree, a place of superstition for the tribe. It marks a breaking point between the tribe's methods and Yasha's, as she will try to use the spiritual world to climb it. The entirety of the tree, Yasha will discover new surfaces that enhance her capabilities. Those kind of new surfaces will appear many times during the game. We designed various ones to create different challenges. For example, you could find the sticky sap one that traps you if you stay too long on it. Yasha knows this one too well because it is the one that caused her to lose her arm. During her journey, Yasha will discover spirits, and the frontier between their worlds and hers will become more and more blurry.
So you got a glimpse of the player progression system in our vertical slice. Yasha encountered moss in the hollow tree, and she uses boosters to overcome the moss. So we have determined for each layer of the game new challenging surfaces, like Clément told you about, spirits with different behaviors to learn movesets from, and thus movesets, allowing Yasha to climb faster and higher, like the boosters. Let's talk a bit more about Yasha's appearance. We took our inspiration from different beliefs throughout Earth. We chose to give her a very dirty appearance with a lot of scars to show the risk of a life in the forest and the trials she went through. Her upper body is notably bigger because she is a climber. And the sedentary tribe also gave her a very sophisticated apparel with bone trinkets to encourage her to take over the spiritual guide duties at the beginning of the game. Her mask, you can see on the left of the left side of the picture, is a depiction of the first spirit she saw carved in woods. Also, when rechecking a climbing, Yasha will wear a totemic crane in the back. We cannot see it on the image right now, but we saw it in the vertical slice. It's a representation of a new ambivalence, and it helps her access the spiritual world. We use it in the game as a diegetic UI to help the player deal with the spiritual world and the timer that links to it.
So the game will be available on PC and consoles. We have developed it with Unity and Wise, and our economic model will be premium. So you pay a fixed price to get the game. As you have seen during the vertical slice, one of the key selling points of our game is the giantism. You will meet giant spirits, and you will be around giant trees and fauna and flora. The second one that you kind of seen during the vertical slice is the obsession, the message of our game. We are mainly showing it with the animation of the character and with the narration, and obviously the mood of our game, the dark fantasy mood. And the most important point is our unusual climbing mechanic. So our game will have a duration of 15 hours. We have 7 playable layers. In each one there is 3 to 4 levels. We have tackled already some technical difficulties. We saw how to make an environment and how to optimize it. We already have our main gameplay loop and our world building. But we still need, for each other layers, to make one platform, one surfaces, one spirits, and to create the mood of the layer. Each of those layers will take 4 to 6 months to create. And we also need to make the NPC system for the city. for example. The whole development will have a duration of 3 years and will cost around 6 million euros. By watching the competitors, we choose them depending on their type. So we choose platform and adventure game with some exploration and action elements. So Undiscovered Wounds have a huge emphasis on platforming and narration. So we placed it close to Inside, but we have a bigger scope, a more realistic artistic direction, like Ancestors or Hellblade. So we think that our game could appeal to players from all 3 of those markets. And the recent success of Ancestors and Hellblade are showing that our game could work. So those competitors sold around 900,000 copies. If we sell our game at a price of 30 euros, we'll earn 21 euros by copies. Our break-even will be at around 300,000 sales. So we could have a possible return of 30 million euros. Thanks for your attention. I would like to call all the people that help us on our project and our team. So here are the people that help us. Please, some applause for them. And here are our team. So now it's time for questions, but know that if you want, you can come upstairs and play the game.
Thank you. So the session for question is open. I remember you, please present yourself before asking question. First, yes, David?
I'm David Bowman, Studio Development Director at Creative Assembly. I always like to start with the first question to warm people up. So I'm watching you play the game, and it feels like the mechanism that's dominating is where am I going and how far can I jump? But that doesn't feel like it would excite me for a long period of time. It feels very limited in its choices. What will make the game entertaining over the long term, where that action I'm taking actually makes me make choices? What's going to drive the choice selection during the play?
So, yeah, it works. For the global progression of the game and progression of the gameplay, we thought that we still wanted to have a limited move set, as it is already a bit complicated to manage. We think that we can add some moves along the way. For example, we tried some things with the wall jump and stuff like this. So we can create a bit more moves, but we also want to put the emphasis on the surfaces and how it changes the way you use your climbing techniques. So, for example, we thought of different surfaces. We saw the moss that makes you slide down. We thought about different stuff, for example, toxic surfaces that would prevent you to climb at some point. So we really want to make you change the way you climb. You use your main mechanic by changing the environment and the surfaces on which you climb. can also use a different kind of platforms to add this variety along the game.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello, I am Hannibal from the animation workshop in Denmark. Congratulations on a really cool demo. I want to first of all say that I appreciate the sense of showmanship and the work you put into getting people into the mood of the story, and I think the story is engaging. I was immediately reminded of Shadow of the Colossus, not only because of the climbing mechanics, but also of the obsession theme. I'm sort of interested in the spectrum that you created, or the diagram with exploration versus narration, and how you draw those, what that means specifically. Is that because it's less heavy on storytelling, or that the storytelling is told differently?
It's because those games are making an emphasis on those points, basically.
Okay. Bonus question. You mentioned that you used photogrammetry for your graphics pipeline. That's very experimental and interesting. What were your experiences with that? Would you want to keep going in that direction?
It was the first time we used photogrammetry. Yes. The first thing we did is we took some pictures outside, and we used the substance package to give this more dark fantasy mood. And it was really interesting, and yeah, I don't know.
Do you think it was successful?
Actually, yes. We still need to learn more about it, but yeah.
I think it's very interesting. You have to definitely think about your how you employ colors, especially how you make contrast and how you do layering, how you make the character distinguishable from the background, and the background distinguishable from the interactable areas. But
yeah, that was a matter of contrast and lights, and we had to manage to the affordance of the texture. Like, is it climbable? Is it swampy or greasy? And it was very interesting to merge those textures and to play with them, because the tools we use were very, very interesting to play with.
Thank you.
Hello, Alexandre Trachet, tool programmers at Ubisoft Paris. So you used photogrammetry to mimic the visual aspect of the trees. For the level design, did you try to copy real trees to recreate your trees, or was it more driven with only level design and platforming? Are there real trees in the game?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
The shape of the trees, was it only with level design, or is there a branch just for the gameplay, or are there real shapes of real trees that you reproduced in the game?
Since the beginning of the development, we had trees in mind, because we knew that the game will be in a forest. So we made the level design around this. So we begin by thinking that the level design will be on trees. Is it responding to the question?
On the level design aspect and the shapes we chose, we had technical constraints. For example, we knew that the tree trunks needed to be as plain and cylindrical as possible. We made tools to go around this problem to still follow the curvature of the tree. So we had this problem in mind at the beginning. And for the global aspect of the trees, we still wanted to have an organic feeling of the forest, So we stayed a bit away from the really blocky meshes. It causes some problems, but it looks good. So I think we still have to find a good balance within those two aspects, having a really organic environment and a climbable one. So yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, Rémi Boutin, game designer at Ubisoft Bordeaux. What's the interest / challenge of activating the spirit world? Because you said that staying too long on the ground deactivates it, but these ground sections were very short in the demo. And is this just a switch on-off, and what the player can do to accomplish this challenge?
Mechanically, what we wanted is to really have this on-off effect and to create the fear of being on a surface or jumping to a surface and watching it disappear in front of your eyes. So we don't really see it in the vertical slice because we try to time it to really be constrained in the demo duration. But if you come see us upstairs, we'll see like a different usage of it. I think in terms of level design, we try to make short sections, as you said, but maybe Hossein might want to say.
About level design and this timing, we iterated several times with the idea of using this time constraint to create this, how do you call it, haste effect. But the fact is that in the spiritual world, you always have to climb. You cannot stay in one place. So, yeah, I don't know to answer more.
Just to be sure, if I'm climbing and I don't move, the spirit world doesn't disappear.
No, when I'm climbing, the timer is constant. But when I'm laying a foot on the ground, it's decreasing per 3, I think. And when you are jumping, it helps you. But it's when you are climbing that you have the most security.
Okay, so there is an invisible timer that accelerates when you're on the ground?
Yes.
So why is it not feedbacked to the player?
Feedback?
Yes.
We tried feedbacks.
We had a lot of feedbacks in mind. We couldn't implement all of them, but for the getting out of the spiritual world, we could, for example, make an effect, like shaking effect on the surfaces that will disappear, a global effect on the screen, stuff like this. We have haptic feedbacks as well and sound feedbacks. We couldn't implement them all, but we thought about it because indeed it's really needed to understand when you're going out and create this feeling of haste and yeah.
Also, we wanted to use the totem as a feedback, a main feedback, but we had a lot to tweak in terms of colors and lights, and we didn't have the time to do this.
Okay, thank you and thanks.
Thank you. We have time for a final question.
Hello, Camille, Game Love Paris. Thank you for the presentation. I love the atmosphere and also the storytelling was great, I thought. I guess have a question as to how it all started. What did you want to achieve with this game? Did you want to tell a story? Was it driven by a game mechanic? If you had to sum it up in like one sentence, how would you sum up your concept?
Okay, so...
Sorry, that was tough.
We had, at the very beginning, we had a very different pitch, but at one moment we decided to go for a more platforming game, so we built everything around the main mechanic of climbing with one arm.
And to add more a bit on top of this, we managed to find a meaning into the story, both the story and the mechanic, by iterating. we thought about having a challenging movement mechanic with only one arm and linking it to the story of Yasha. So it really come both ways, because our accident triggers our spiritual powers, and is really the trigger for the shamanistic experience that she will live. So by iterating, we found meaning into both the story and the mechanic in the end.
And also about the start of how it all started. Really, when you see the key selling points here, the verticality and the unusual climbing, they were here since the start, and we kept them all along as our pillars.
Okay.
We wanted to achieve this.
Okay, thanks.
So let's finish on this key selling point. Thank you, and please help me thank the team and welcome. And let's welcome the second team of this morning, Cobble and Trouble.
Could you turn off the lights, please? I guess that's a no. All right.
Dear Diary, it's been a week since I started my witch internship. Clearly, it's not as fun as I expected. Blah blah blah, you must always take care of the forge. But anyway, today my master is gone, so I can use magic however I want. What could go wrong?
Welcome to the final presentation of Cobble Trouble. The sun is shining in Angoulême, that means it's a special day. And thanks for sharing that day with us. Cobble Trouble is a first-person shooter tower defense game that lets you create and play with chaos. It's for a wide audience of players seeking fantasy action. And unlike conventional takes on the niche tower defense genre, our gameplay focuses on improvisation and action over strategic planning. To give you a brief overview, it's a first-person shooter tower defense game playable on PC and consoles with keyboard and mouse or a gamepad respectively. It's for 1 or 2 players in different game modes in a low fantasy setting. We aim for a PEGI 7 rating, which opens a large player base to us, and we're using Unreal Engine and Wise. For a short glimpse at the game modes, there's a solo story mode, and that's also where the vertical slice takes place. But there will additionally be a 2-player co-op, the Double Trouble mode, and the Versus, which is Quarrel. Hugo, can you show us what's in this marvelous game, actually?
Thank you. So, what is in this marvelous game? So, maybe you've guessed, but there is a witch. Yes. So, her name, we called her Elise. So she's young, she's talented, she's badass. She's really relatable for us. She tries to improvise something in an unprepared situation and strive to adapt and be creative. Keep it for yourself, but I think she might be the representation of us in the gaming industry. So it's the first person, so you only, in the vertical slice, see her through her hands. So you can see she has a lot of scars. Sometimes, yeah, she does mistakes because she's still learning, you know. And you have also the Forge. The Forge is this strange artifact that outbursts things and change physics around it, twisting objects, and in our game, everything in this level comes from it. It's a main landmark, and it is also the source of the power for Elise, the witch. So you have to defend it no matter what. You have to take care of it, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so you can see here it again. And for instance, those pillars, I like the big pillar here because it's a good representation of yet it's a big pillar. It's supposed to take the building together, but it's still there. It's shattered, but it's still working somehow. You know, it's magic. And in other hand, you also have this cold snowstorm outside, from which is really in contrast with Forge, which is fire. You know, fire, cold, and it's where the threats come from. You know. The threats. These little icy things, they want to, you don't really know what they want, but they basically come and they cool down your forge, and you don't want them to cool down your forge. So it's a problem. Yeah, it's a bit laggy. Thank you. And so you have, fortunately, you're a witch, so you have powers. And there is all these junks lying around, bottles, stuff, and pots. Maybe you can improvise something with it, with your telekinesis power. So you take them, whoosh, whoosh, and you throw at them. Pew! But it's not enough, obviously. What you can do, it is your invention. You can, thanks to the magic of the forge, create marvelous golems with enchanted props. Does it work or not? Yes, it's working. Thank you. Magic. And yes, so it blocks the passage and take aggro of the enemies. And obviously you can not only create one, but several. But, you know, instead of just explaining, we can just show it to you. So without further ado, please welcome the vertical slice. Ah, it's working.
All right. So Ulyss is going to play a full level of Cobble Trouble. So as you can see, you start in your master's workshop. It's a big place, very high in ceiling, and at its center is the forge. So the source of your power, this magical object that is very important for you to defend. So you got all these objects lying around. You can use your telekinesis power to hover them above your right hand, and with them, create golems.
They're coming.
So as you can see, the appearance of the golem is completely dependent on the objects you use to create them. You can also disassemble them, as you just saw, to repurpose them or move them. You can create these golems with between 1 and 6 props. It's really up to you. But obviously the strength and ability will change. So here's the first wave of enemies. As you can see, they attack both the golems and the players, depending on which one is closer. And you can use your telekinesis power to shoot at the enemies to assist your golems and help them defeat the wave of enemies. As soon as you defeat a wave, as you can see, there is a burst of energy coming from the forge. This will heal your golem and help you keep on fighting.
Here we go again.
Circle around it, indicating its range of attack, so that you can prepare your defenses in a more dramatic fashion.
Bye.
And that's a second wave defeated. Another outburst from the forge, and now you can see that this outburst is also going to open a cage in the level.
Tricks?
In this cage you will find a special object. So if you use this special object to create a golem, the golem will have special abilities, as we will see for the next wave.
Stop trying, please.
Encasing them in a rock formation and preventing them from attacking. As with most tower defense, of course, each subsequent wave will be stronger than the last, and you will find more and more ground to cover, since there are 3 entry points for the golems in this level. So that's another way to defeat it, that's another cage opening, and that's another set of special props that you can use. Maybe we can try to experiment now with some combos. just saw Golem with 2 special props. He's able to both stun the enemies and zap them in a chain pattern to affect multiple enemies instead of just one.
Not on my watch.
Good job, Golem. That is a lot of special props. I guess you can expect a bigger wave now.
No, I still don't need a new fridge. Some witches just want to watch the world.
So for the 5th and final wave, the enemies are going to attack from all sides. So you'll need to use all your powers, both telekinesis and the golems, and move them to repurpose them to adapt to the waves of enemies and the strength and weaknesses of your defense. As you can hear during the gameplay, there is a lot of audio cues, lines of dialogue that the witch will utter during the game to inform you about the state of the game. For instance, if the forge is attacked or if a new wave is coming. The music is also adaptative. It follows the pattern of the waves and is more intense and more epic as the level progresses.
Like my magic tricks? Ow! Oh no! My phone has been damaged.
That's a lot of enemies. Are you gonna be okay? It looks like you are.
Some witches just want to watch the world.
Nice job, that's the last of them. Kill the stragglers.
You shall not pass.
Almost there. Hold on. There we go. Magnificent golems doing the job for us. And that's the end of this wave.
What?
I wonder what would be coming next. Sounds big. I don't know what was coming, but it sounded big. I guess you'll see that in the full game. So tell us, Tim, what will you find in the full game?
Let's go.
Oh, but does it work? Yeah.
Go, you go.
Cool. So maybe you want to hear more about the full game content and stuff. So for the levels, we thought of maybe doing several chapters with each different theme. For instance, fire, nature, ice, or arcane, but we can imagine a lot more. And for each chapters, there will be several levels in it, let's say 3, and for the story mode and for the co-op mode. But also there will be from each theme and a versus map, a versus level for it. So maybe I can talk to you a bit about, so yeah, the vertical slice is here in the first chapter, second level, but I can give you a glimpse of the versus mode. So for also with each theme there will be a different skin for the witch, and with each witch, I'm French, sorry. Will be several special props, because as you maybe understood, abilities come from props, so different special props comes different powers and different behavior for the golems. And so there will be several special props for each witch, and there will be also regular props in the middle to give you some kind of capture the flag game mode. And obviously, golems will behave differently, and there will be lanes, so there will not only be towers, but attack like maybe minions, like in a MOBA game. And so, but how do we create a level? Then for the all level pipeline, we need, of course, a theme for it. For instance, nature. So we have to brainstorm about it, make a new witch, and imagine a new, all new skin. And for that, we use how do we call this? It's on my modular asset for the environment, so it's kind of easy for us. And there is also, we need to think about new props, not only in terms of mechanics, but in terms also of images that they have, so they have to be about the nature, but also we can understand what mechanics they can give. And to challenge these new mechanics, we also have to think about new enemies to change these mechanics. For instance, if we have, and I really want that, ranged attack golems, we could also have ranged attack minions, enemies and stuff like this. And now I will let the team speak to you about how we will use our time and money for the production.
To make more time and money. No,
yeah, money.
Right, so again, at the core, there's the team. We established the pipeline to create one of these levels in one of these worlds and how to create more levels in more worlds. For example, also to mention for the props that create the golems, we have developed a tool that lets the designers tweak the position and the size so that we can get specific control over the elements that are taken from the environment and basically make up our golems as we like them. Additionally, during the vertical slice, we gained a lot of Unreal Engine 4 experience, ups and downs included. And we work with industry standards where possible to have a really stable pipeline and focus on the creative stuff. The planning we foresee as follows. First, we want to make 3 additional months of pre-production to answer questions regarding the multiplayer. We see that as an integral part for the game, and we want to answer those questions as quick as possible. And after that, there come 16 months of production towards an early access release in October 2021. And during that production, we will, for each of the 4 zones or themes that were just presented, create 4 single and co-op levels and 4 multiplayer levels, so 8 levels total during that time. The core game, as mentioned, will be early access with the 4 levels for both story and multiplayer on PC. It's overall a time span of 24 months, and we stock up to a team of 24, and this includes dedicated narrative designers, online programmers, and also a community manager, for example. We end up at a total budget of about 2.7 million, and on that, upon successful early access release, we will work on console ports, most likely with an external partner. And yes, it's marketing time now. So, the key USP of our game is that we're a refreshing take on the action take on the tower defense genre. But we have further KSPs. You can interact with all props in the environment. There's aiming and resource management as the main challenges of the game. You have combinatory action crafting with the special props that gain special abilities to the golems you craft. You create and play with chaos, and there will be a lot of chaos. And lastly, you have a friendly fantasy world. This leads us to the target audience. For who is this game? We mainly aim at mainstream players, and what we mean by mainstream players here is a wide audience. Players who typically like AAA games, who like to play games that they are generally familiar with, like action and first-person shooter games. But maybe they are looking for a small title to play in between the very big titles, and they are open to a low fantasy setting. Our primary target within this whole group are players that are competent game players. They play like 3 times a week or more often. They like to disrupt, to create, to experiment, basically to make the game their toy. To have a look at our competitors on the x-axis between reflection on the left and action on the right, and on the y-axis a measure of approachability within the competent players. We give you some examples here, and we position ourselves towards really approachable and a high amount of action. And whilst it's a bit crowded up there already, it's normal because we target at AAA players who like this type of gameplay. But as you saw with our release date in October, we aim to go for the holiday season and offer a small title to play in between and play with friends in a shorter play span or game session duration. So that's where we put ourselves. And finally, the business plan. Our price is a premium price of $19.99. Games of similar scope, where, for example, Orcs Must Die or Sanctum with $15.99, but I think we have already a bit higher production values. And this leads us to an average revenue per unit of $770. A return on investment would be just under 350,000 copies sold. And for example, Orcs Must Die or Sanctum were between the 1 and 2 millions just on Steam. We're open to basically all platforms and absolutely are looking for a publisher as a partner to really push this game. So finally, we are happy to welcome you on the Plateau project, where we can play the game with you, or you can play the game, you can talk with us and ask the difficult questions there, of course, then later in a conversation. And, oh, Hugo, it's messed up. Can you do something about that? Come down, everybody.
Thank you. So who wants to start with the question? Yeah.
Hello. First, congratulations. Your project looks really great. You managed to transform your toy from last time into a full game, so it's great. Just a question. I saw you feedbacked the golem life, but not the enemies. Why did you choose this direction?
Basically, you don't need to know enemy life because you need to know your golem life because it's resources, it's management resources, so you can use them, you can like destroy them and move them, and if they die, they explode, so the props go everywhere, so it's really important to know it. But enemies are just enemies, you kill them in 3 hits, you don't have to know it. It's a very action-paced game, and we try to give as little information as necessary, only the very useful stuff, and it wasn't useful for the player, basically.
And so, so you said 3 hits, so if I do 3 objects golem or 6 objects golem, it's just the golem lives that change, not the damage that he inflicts?
Basically, everything changes, in fact. Each props in the game has a characteristic, and based on this characteristic, we sum it up when we do a golem, and we have different... yeah, that's it. It's explained a little bit better here. So this is the inner workings of the game. You take some props, and based on the props that you take, the golem is different. So we chose also to give a little bit more visual feedback with the size and with the speed. So when they're smaller, they attack faster, they move faster, but they have less life. When they're bigger, they move slower, sorry. They have a big health pool, and they are slower when they attack also.
Thank you, and congratulations again.
Hi. Sorry. Alexandre Russe, associate lead artist in Ubisoft Bordeaux. Yours, really cool game. I like the action terror crafting. It's a really cool principle, and you did it well. So congratulations. Yeah, I just wanted to know, since it's a fast action-based game, what were your artistic choices to improve the readability on your game?
First of all, we tried not to do really realistic. We stylized a lot of textures. We tried not to, how to say, overload the textures with details. And we tried to find props that were recognizable from a far distance. For example, things that you can find in a witch hut, like it's easy to find a big bottle in the environment. We also worked with the programmers to have shaders that can, for example, make the props stand out in the environment, for example, with a Fresnel. So we tried a lot, we iterated a lot to find the right amount of shaders that we could use on the props to make them stand out in the environment. And yeah, it was a lot of iteration to find the right balance, and we still try to, we tried a lot of things. There's still some things that are not readable, but we tried to make it as readable as we could.
Thanks.
Stéphane Natkin. I have two questions. The first one is, if I understood well, the witch you show is a student's witch. She's learning how to become a big witch. And so maybe she is not really efficient. She has to learn. And in the demo, it was not clear this process of apprenticeship. And the second question which was related is, when you combine all these objects, how the player or the witch or both of them understand what is the right combination for the next attack? And in the demo, everything is very quick. Do you think that you should have some slower time where you look around you, look to all the objects and their props, and think how you manage your next golem for the next fight?
For one, the demo is, of course, it's kind of paced for the presentation. So we strike a balance there to start slow and then show the more dynamic parts. Of course, we have in the whole production, we have 4 months dedicated to balancing, basically. So there we can fine-tune that you have even more time, and the first level that's even slower, and so on. For the props, we specifically made the decision to basically hide this complexity for the player, because in order to play the game and have fun, it's not important. You can just grab what you find around, and like the special props, they are sparkling, they have special effects on them, and you figure out by playing with what you can create, what the result will be. But I can totally imagine like having these values of props then somewhere in a fan wiki where people then try to create the strongest builds and something like that. But we don't think that it's necessary to have that information in the game. And the first question was?
Yeah, and about the progression of the witch, as Tim said, we had to squeeze as much progress as possible in the demo for the sake of the presentation. But there would be a first level. This would be the second level of the first chapter. So during the first level, you will be more exposed to that apprenticeship, because it would be basically like a tutorial. So you would learn along the witch how to use her powers. And as a base for her powers, the witch knows telekinesis, and she can do golems with it. But of course, it's just a small part of the magic that she could potentially learn and master, were she an established sorceress. And of course, as the game progresses, you would learn new powers. You would still have this sense of progression and learning by learning how to do new stuff in different environments. So yeah.
If I may add to it, we also think that the concept of how the golems are created and how they look just by household objects, basically, that is an expression of her being an apprentice. She's not a fighting witch. She doesn't make the enemies explode and shoots fireballs or so. She improvises with what she has learned, which is mainly telekinesis, and builds these quirky, fun golems that actually help her, and she shoots with her telekinetic power, but it's an improvisation. She's not a combat witch, so that's where it also makes sense for us.
Have the whole game, the idea of having more progression in the understanding. Starting by simulation, I take everything I can grab and use it, and then now, when she became a real great witch, she must understand what she do.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, congratulations again, and that was a very impressive demo, and how far you've come from the first presentation. It's amazing. I noticed though that your schedule and budget is a bit cheeky because you're stopping at early access. It's just like, since when a game is done in early access, right? There's a lot of work to be done behind. Probably another 6 months or a year of work, right?
Yes, that is right. We can basically double the production phase that we already have, because for us the main metric that we based our whole calculation and production planning on is basically a level per theme or chapter. So we can easily double that, and we arrive at the final destination of 16 levels. But this is, for us, this was the more important section to show, because basically at the early access we aim to make the decision if this makes sense because of success to port to consoles, and to continue basically with twice the amount of content. So we think this is the important part to show.
Also, congratulations on a really intriguing game. I especially love that you use the mechanic of throwing stuff around as a way to get the player to move around the entire level and not stay in the same place. That's very clever. And as a messy person, I feel that I'm represented, and I feel like, no, I'm serious. Like you are actually working perhaps towards something where you can create a character that has sort of an ADHD sort of personality, and you can sort of turn that into a strength. And I almost wish you would push that a little bit more. But it's of course hard to present a character from a first-person view. But you have the wonderful hands that you can do a lot of fun thing with. Definitely would love to see a rock paper scissors minigame or something. But I think you can. I think you could go even further with injecting the personality and making it coherent with the core gameplay. And I think you should definitely stick to that essence of craziness, madness, messiness, also being a power. So keep going.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. That was really funny. I had a good time. So it seems that you have the game under control. So I have no question about that. But my question though was more about the business model. So it seems that your game would benefit a lot from adding new content, new levels, new seasons, new events, Fortnite style. And so why premium? Have you considered another option, and why was that discarded if it was the case?
We think that we thought about free to play very quickly, yeah. But this is something where we don't have any experience with, so we can't make a very strong proposition on that. This is where we can make a proposition. It's absolutely imaginable, and I think we would be open to that concept. But this is where we can make a justified proposition that also gives you a return on investment that kind of makes sense.
Okay, fair enough.
a last question? No? No? So if there's no regrets, let's, you will have the opportunity to play just after the first presentation, the presentation of this morning. So let's thank again this team. And let's welcome the last presentation of this morning, Synchronicles.
Est-ce qu'on peut swapper les deux écrans, c'est ça hein? Est-ce qu'on peut juste swapper les deux écrans? Oui. Ok. C'est bon? Ok, super, merci. We can swap again. Please. Thanks. Oh, just wait. Can you swap again? Sorry. A little bit of settings. Okay, cool. Pas de, c'est bon. Okay, so we can swap again. Again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Celui-là, quand t'es prêt. Whenever you're ready.
Oh, we have no sound.
Is it possible to fix the sound? We are a rhythm game. I mean, please. No.
String.
Oh no, please.
Non, ça fait pas de zoom.
Sorry for keeping you waiting.
Échec de putain.
Toujours pas de son. C'est bon.
Okay, it's fixed. It's fixed.
Sorry for keeping you waiting. Thanks. Can we have the black?
Can we
scene,
just turn off
please?
the light? Thank you.
Great.
Good morning, everyone. In Synchronicles, CEO, your character, will progress through a corrupted world after a disaster. What makes him moving is his soul, but it's unsteady, and if you do your action irresponsibly, your soul pool will increase until it explodes. So, to gain ground efficiently in this hostile environment and with such a constraint, you'll have to manage your soul pulse. And as you need to be in phase with the world around to keep your soul inside of your body, you'll have to play in rhythm. Synchronicle is a rhythmic Metroid-like game that was built for players who like to feel powerful in a challenging game and that seeks completion through that type of game. They are indie game lovers, but also rhythm game enthusiasts. The game is planned to be released first on PC and then on console later. Our game was built to fulfill these needs of completion, challenge, and power, and they are easily translated in our game vision. First, the exploration will fulfill the need for completion. The tension is high for the challenge lover. And the choreography in the fight, with juicy effects and sound, will please the power seekers. So the vision pillars helped us to design a game and to define three important things. First, our goal, the secrets to find during the exploration of the world. Second, our constraints, the continuous situation of danger in the game. And last but not least, our means to overcome the constraints and achieve our goal, a way to manage your life by playing in rhythm.
So the world of CO got corrupted by a mineral called argyrith. It is everywhere in the environment and seems to make the planet pulse. In Synchronicles, the music will make a lot of elements pulse with it. The argyrith nodules that you can see in the environment, the one that are on CO, the enemies also, and two things, two metronomes. The metronomes are on CO and in the UI. The controls are mapped for controller and keyboard, but the optimal experience is made for controllers. On it, the movements are mapped close to twin-stick shooters. You can move with your left stick and focus a target automatically. But you can also use the right stick to focus more accurately if needed. And this will definitely be needed as the fights complexify. We're going to let you see a short video to show you the two different cameras and for you to have a glimpse of our main mechanics before we explain them more in details. So as you can see here, we are in exploration mode. So the camera is close to see the details of the environment, and here we enter combat, so the camera is wider.
So let's talk a little bit about what we just see. So the rush, first of all, is a dash attack that you can only use if you focus a targetable object. When you have a target, you can press the rush input and peer through targets using your spear and dealing damage. We worked hard on the rush and its feeling to emphasize the speed of the character and its power. If you work perfectly in rhythm with the music, you can heal yourself. But if you are out of sync, you'll get damaged by the corruption that is on your body. Okay, so this was the rush. It's pretty basic, and it's pretty much the basic attack of our game. It will also serve as the base for other special moves that we will explain in a few minutes. The second main mechanic is the blink. It's a defensive option that allows the player to teleport quickly in a nearby location. It does not deal any damage to the enemies, but you can use it to reposition yourself and dodge enemies' attacks. The cooldown of the blink is quite long, because like it's 1 bar, which is quite, yeah. But you can still rush in rhythm during the blink cooldown to reset it. It encourages the player to attack more and to have a more action-oriented playstyle. This is what it looks like. The blink is actually the very first ability that you will unlock at the start of the game, but it's a really solid base that you will use throughout the whole game. So now with those two main mechanics, you can learn to chain rushes and blinks in order to have a flowing combat experience. So we also developed special abilities following the blink and the rush, and it is called the rewind. Let me show you what it is all about. By rushing through enemies, you put a mark on them. After having 4 marks at least, you can rewind. And by rewinding, you will make the character attack all the marked enemies, dealing more damage to them instantly. The rewind is also an ability that you will be able to use in environmental puzzles. So let's see what it looks like.
Before letting you enjoy the demo, we just wanted to let you know when this vertical slice occurs in the timeline of the whole game. So you're here at about 20 minutes of the game. Everything is getting a bit more difficult, but you never encountered any bosses yet. So you will experience new enemies though in an environment called the canyons. Can we please switch to the demo? Can we go back to the second screen, please? Thank you. So thank you for watching. Let's go back to our full game. So we divided it in 6 big levels that are huge and connected by a sub-goal for the player. Go to the source, find a fragment, go into the core, etc. However, these are not our units of development, as those levels are really big. They each last around 35 to 50 minutes. So inside of those levels, you'll progress into different distinctive environments with their special enemies, abilities to use, etc. Each of these environments have their musics for each phase, like combat and exploration, and their musical feedback. So yeah, if we succeed to develop this whole of a game, the experience would last between 5 and 5.5 hours.
Let's talk a bit about the full experience of Synchronicles as we plan to develop it. The progression in the game will be pretty typical to a Metroid-like game. First, the player will explore the world to see where he can find places where he could use this ability to unlock new zone and new area. Once they unlock a new area, they will explore it, find new enemies, try to fight them, find even stronger enemies and opponents, and a boss. And eventually, they will learn a new ability. After that point, they can either keep going into their exploration, discovering new area or zone, or they can backtrack and in the previous area find narrative secrets or even maybe an optional boss.
So, what are those abilities? Let's talk a little bit more about them. So, the upgrades are here to update our character movesets and possibilities. So, thanks to these upgrades, the player can go through different paths or interact with different environments and have different ways to interact with the enemies. So, here an example. The charged rush allows you to charge your rush and extend its range. With it, you can rush further and break enemy shields and barrier while dealing more damage. Then we have the Argerith walking. It allows you to swim through the vein of Argerith in order to access new areas or go back to previously visited areas more quickly. It can also be used during some boss fight. We will detail that later. Finally, there is the Forwarder that allows you to escape time for a bit, thus negating the effect of everything happening during that bit. With it, you can dodge undodgeable attacks and events. This is just a sneak peek of all the abilities that you might get in the final product, though. There is much more to discover here.
To tell you more about the boss fight, let's talk about the Mimic you saw at the end of the demo. The Mimic is kind of a spider hidden in a big Argerith monolith that look like some usual monoliths, like the ones that give the players new ability. But it's surrounded by sort of spider legs. Anyway, when you arrive next to it, you can quickly see that it's not really normal. To defeat it, you will have to use a rewind to hit the legs in a very short timing. We develop 8 main bosses that you will have to go through for the adventure's sake. If you have the completionist soul, you will definitely find the hidden boss to fight. Each boss have its own time signatures, and their attack patterns will be based on the music patterns. Now, let's hear what a boss time signatures could be. We designed a lot of different bosses for the whole game. They are important narratively and also for the action, as they are supposed to be the peak of the challenges. We believe it's important for them to be diverse. So here you can see the ancestor, the oldest insect of the world, unable to move but still deadly.
So yeah, let's get a little bit more into the details for the bosses. So here is the one. She's the last true survivor of Theo's race. She never could have imagined that someone else survived. To live despite the cataclysm, she sacrificed a lot of her kind. She's now unforgivable. And in a fight, she's actually more of unforgiving. Her time signature would be a 3-step waltz in her first phase, as she's of royal blood. But it will become a 6-8 in the second phase. To beat her, you will need 2 of the last abilities you unblocked. In phase 1, she will protect herself, thanks to her shield. You need to block all of her attacks in a row for her to be tired and unable to heal her shield. After breaking the shield, you'll discover a nodule of Argyrith in it, and will be able to Argyrith walk through it to deal damage to her. After some time spent in phase 1, she'll enter phase 2. She will harass the player with a weapon. After dodging for a while, she'll eventually load a gigantic attack that you just can't dodge, except if you have the forwarder ability. So after that, she will be exhausted, and so it will be the time to strike.
Beside the combat and boss fights, we intend to keep the entire game, interesting in the exploration phase. Environmental puzzles and backtracking will also be central in the experience. As the narration of the game complexifies, there will be more place to go back to. Here are some examples of simple environmental puzzles that open new ways, like rushable objects, pressure plates, etc. Now let's talk a little bit about the environments of the whole game. We work a lot on environmental storytelling. The Argyrith, for example, is not a simple mineral. Theos people use it to create objects and engrave text on them. The world will be pulsing as one sentient being. It certainly has something to do with the disaster, as it wasn't really pulsing before. The environments will be very different from one another. There will be, for example, high mountains, or narrow cavities in the deep planets, giving a completely different feeling as we want players to experience variety.
Now, let's quickly talk about technical details. We developed the game using Unity and Wise as our audio middleware. This was an important point because of the core mechanic of the game. The rhythm of the music needs to impact the engine. So thanks to Wise callback system, we could easily link objects in the game to the beat of the music. This helped us to develop our music system. As our enemies attack on the beat, and as we needed to build a good flow, we needed a music system to be rewarding, interactive, and clear. So the music system that we build gives rewards to the player's input. For example, if you just done a perfect input, you will hear a drum feedback, a melody feedback. The music layers could also increase in intensity, and if you were low in life, you would hear a healing sound. But what is more important, fortunately, is that the music system is highly adaptable. For example, imagine a boss theme. Imagine we want to create a new iteration with new phases, new layers in the music, and we want to change the time signature. Thanks to the music system, this will be easily adaptable. This will allow us to quickly adapt a boss fight to a new music, and so to create what we call music packs. A music pack will be arrangement of existing music with collaboration with well-known artists that will create new iteration of boss patterns. This will make the game live with an easy way of building bearable packs.
As our main target is niche and might get narrow, we also easily imagine that this game might reach another market, actually, the music lovers. Those players won't be that interested in difficult games, though it's not repulsive to them. They are more interested in the original soundtrack of the game and the interesting boss patterns that comes with it. They will be pleased to hear great music. This is why we got the idea to develop the music packs that are a good way to keep the game alive, but also to attract the music lovers, as they can enjoy new bosses patterns and new musics with them, etc. To help these players to have the best experience possible in the game, we agreed that it had to include accessibility settings in the display and gameplay. So, for example, they can tweak the life you could lose on missed beats or by being hit by the enemies, etc. Before telling you more about how we want to produce the game, we need to explain you something. Our production is based on the fact that we will develop the game as a very indie team in a cooperative entrepreneurship model. So we will settle in Angoulême as a cooperative, a scope in French, and produce the game all together, knowing that here is our production plan. So our idea is that as we develop most of the combat and rhythm systems, we will focus on building the new abilities, bosses, new enemies, and mostly a variety of environments. There will be 15 of them, more or less wide. The production will take 19 months after our respective internships, so starting in September 2020. You can also spot a month dedicated to Kickstarter, as we plan to do one not to fund anything, but rather to reinforce the community and give them a way to interact with us and impact the game. With the financial support of a publisher, we could launch the game on consoles quicker, and we could develop the game even more. For example, we could develop DLCs or New Game Plus modes. We could also extend the game by adding fragment quests before going to the final boss, etc. We plan to release on computer and consoles, as we said before. Though the game will firstly go out on Steam. It will be a premium economic model. Our sales objective will be 100,000 copies, and the mid-price will be 10.4 euros, including the distribution costs, the sales, and the price difference between countries. As you can see, we will try to overcome some classic indie successes like Guacamelee 2 or Inside My Radio, but our main references in terms of design were huge successes, like Airport Drifter, for example. Considering a mid-price of 10.4 euros, as we said, and the total cost of the project, that would be 480,200 euros, all included, our break-even point will be around 46,200 copies. Now, I hope Synchronicles got your interest, and I welcome the whole team to join me in a few, as we'll answer your questions after this.
So who wants to start with the question? Yeah.
Hello guys, my name is Alexandre Senadji. I'm working as a level designer at Ubisoft Paris. I have a question for you. Is it possible to go directly to the boss in the demo? Because I feel like there is no blocker.
So yes, actually you can. The fact is the boss is only beatable if you have the upgrade. And so we want the player, if he goes directly there and try again and again, and if he sees that there is no way possible to beat the boss, we might just put a little message on screen saying, hey, maybe you're lacking something to beat that boss. And so he will go in another phase of exploration to find the abilities that the player lacks. In the rest of the game, we want also to introduce environmental puzzles in order to gatekeep the different bosses and different parts of the game that are not accessible yet because you don't have the right ability.
Okay. I was more expecting to have a puzzle right here to avoid going to the boss, because I feel like it's a bit die and retry if you go to the boss without the power.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's a good idea.
Yeah, it is, but that's also our target, like a hardcore lover. So.
The presentation was really cool, the demo. Congrats to play it live. It's
Thank you
it's
very
great.
much.
Just one last question. With the camera, I feel that it can be hard to read the different paths you have. What is the main path? What are the other paths? Have you worked on that?
Yeah, so in the final game, we want to have a map that is accessible at all times. So when you are in an area, you know where are the different paths that you might go to, just like in Metroid Prime, for example.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Oh, can I make a quick comment? So the essence of your game is rhythm, music, flow, synchronizing your events to this. And I think I, over the course, or actually from the beginning of your presentation, had sort of a feeling of a conflict. And I think that comes from having mixed genre and also mixed target audience games. You have something that's more traditional and a lot of things about a boss and a thing and exploration and whatever, but you have the essence, the core, I think it's the core, which is this rhythmic gameplay. And so you can draw from different inspirations, and I think, do you worry that you might end up getting lost or forgetting where your essence is, and also like forgetting where to aim in terms of a target audience? I didn't feel like you came out very strongly in the beginning with a strong identity as a rhythm game, for example. So there's a chance of confusion also in terms of branding and marketing.
Yeah, I agree, but actually the thing is, yeah, this is not really a pure rhythm game. Even if the rhythm is kind of a main mechanic also, we really wanted to make a Metroid-like game, etc., and rhythmic Metroid-like. I think it's better to say that, rhythmic Metroid-like, because it's it's also, of course, we mixed a lot the two genres. But yeah, I think it's pretty much core, and of course we had some influences from a lot of references which are really rhythm games, or really action and Metroid-like games, etc. But we tried to mix it as best as possible.
I think also having this mix is a change for us, because it allows us to go to a kind of uncharted territory in the action genre and the rhythm genre. We can also, for different bosses or different power-ups, have patterns that are more linked to one genre or the other, and so it's just renew the experience within each and every bosses.
Make sure you're able to market that also.
Yeah.
And sell that.
Okay.
Hear you. Well, congratulations again about the demo. I'm Audrey from Game Bakers. I forgot to say before, so I'm saying it now. For me, I wanted to hear your thoughts about why you chose that attack, the main attack there, the spear, or I don't know exactly the name when you actually go through the characters. Because you say you're going for power hungry and choreography, but I didn't think it looked very juicy. It didn't look very sexy. It looked a bit weak, actually, in terms of the action. And so I was wondering if you chose that for any reason that I could not foresee, for chaining actions, or any other reason, if you tried other things. And why did you come up with that attack, that main attack that we saw?
I don't know if I will be able to answer for the fully thing. I would maybe need some help. But for the moment, I think it's mainly because we chose to have a character which is really thin, etc., really light and fast. This is what we really wanted to do, and I don't think the power and the feeling of power might only come by heaviness and big actions, etc. We believe that it might be really interesting to have something lighter, and to develop this dash combat system is also, of course, a risk, and maybe it's a design position, but we really hope it might give that feeling, and we're sorry it's not maybe that much.
Also, as you just said, we wanted a combat system that implies choreography, so movement. And so we wanted to recreate that movement by allowing the player to attack by moving and to dodge by moving also. And so that's where we came from. So yeah.
Thank you.
Next question. Everybody's hungry?
Looks like it.
Yeah, you are too, I guess. No more questions? So I think you keep them when you will play the game. They're right there. So let's thank again the team. Thanks to all the teams of this morning. And so we'll have the lunch break now. We will have some time after the lunch to let you play directly at the games you've seen this morning or the other games. When you will go upstairs, see the students. We will get back at 2:45, so be there on time. So we will have the time also to play after the last presentation. Thank you.